I'm Peter Thomas and I'm chair of the CDI Foundation. Today, I'm talking with Cristina Fernández Bornay, who's director of 42 Barcelona, which for those who don't know about it, but you will soon, is a programming campus like nothing you've ever seen. It's more than school. It's an open, values-led, peer-powered learning ecosystem. No formal teachers, no entry requirements beyond motivation and persistence, but it's producing some of the most future-ready digital talent anywhere in the world. Cristina, thank you for joining me.
Thank you to invite me.
So let's start with the basics. For those new to the concept, which we most people, what exactly is 42 Barcelona?
So 42 Barcelona is a school in the network of 42. 42 is a network school which started in 2013 in Paris with the objective of teaching and educating the new generation of developers. The idea was to learn the basics, learn the fundamentals, and build up from there, and also learn how to learn and learn how to learn in community with others. So all our education, of course, is free for inclusivity. And apart is we don't have teachers, we don't have tutors, we don't have mentors. We have peer-to-peer, we have peer evaluation. It started in 2013 in Paris, and right now we have a network of more than, I think, 55 schools around 30 countries. And here we are located in Barcelona, apart from Madrid, Malaga, and Urduliz. And Spain, our main partner is Fundación Telefónica.
Tell me a bit about what you do in 42 and a bit about your background and how you came to be at 42.
I first studied biomedical engineering in a normal university in Spain, which I loved it. But then at a certain moment, I felt that I wanted to learn in a different way. I moved to Finland. I lived for a year there, and then I discovered 42, and that's where I moved to Paris. I lived there for 6 years, and I studied at 42. And when I arrived to Paris, and I started learning in this methodology where you have no one to tell you what to do, just have problems and projects to solve, and you use 100% of your capacity to solve it. I discovered that it was much more engaging, much more mature in a way. So then I joined the pedagogical team at the central team in Paris. I worked there for 3 years, so I helped them to construct the projects and think about the methodology. I always say that I have two objectives. One is the students feel great at school, and the other is that they learn. So if that doesn't happen, they have to come to me and talk.
So tell me about a typical day in your life at 42. What do you do?
There's two main goals. The first one is we have to be in contact with the student. I really have to talk to people, which it's interesting because you learn how to listen, you learn how to understand real problems from real people. It sounds very what we always say, but it is very different when you encounter a situation. So that's one of my main roles. And the other main role is when you have all this problem, of course, you have to learn to move from one side, knowing how to deal with a one-to-one conversation, to actually move that knowledge to strategy and think about, okay, so if I'm having this conversation 10 times in a day, probably we should think about a system, or we should think about why these people is feeling this, or how we communicate about this.
So you can change things in response to what happens on a day-to-day basis with the students to make it more effective for them. Is that right?
As I said before, we are part of a network, and that network establishes certain things that have to be in the way that they are intended to be. But we can play a lot with the communication. We can also play with different factors, but not that many. The system, it is based on certain pillars or values that are as I said, peer-to-peer. So for example, if I have a student struggling with learning how to code or not understanding certain concepts, my move wouldn't be I have to explain them. Will be I'm gonna connect them with other people that understand that problem already, so they can collaborate better. We are very free to change and have a real impact on the day-to-day of the students.
So that learning model, that peer-to-peer learning model, is the opposite when you hear it that most people think about when they think about education. Education is lectures and grading curves and competition and those kind of things. So how does that peer-to-peer model actually work? If I were a student at 42, what would it look like to me?
Yeah, so it always starts with a problem. It always starts with the pedagogical team, like my previous team when I was working in Paris and right now like the central pedagogical team, created this kind of like crescendo path in which you start with a very basic problem and then you start like building up from there. And that problem is always hands-on. Like it's never theoretical. It's never you should understand this or whatever. They always build a problem around the concept that you want, like they want you to learn. And then what happens is that they never tell you the way to solve the problem. So it's we have this problem, you have to solve it. How you move from this point to this point is your way to do it. So that allows like to creativity to flourish because no one is telling you how to do things. It's more like we tell you what to solve and then you will find your own way. And of course that allows to first like you have to find your own motivation and then from there you start moving on. So that's have like coming back. So they present you a problem. We have, of course, like an interface, like an internet with all the projects, how you advance, like everything is very amplified. So you work Win XP and then you have like your skill map and like how everything works together. And once you finish a problem, you have to submit the project and you will be evaluated by 3 other peers, which are chosen randomly. And if they judge that everything is correct, you move to the next problem. Basically, like the students will, as I said, look for their own information, judge if something is correct or not. Like you will look in the internet or like you will ask ChatGPT, then you will test it for your own, and maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. So you build like a critical spirit on how your code is works or not, and how it solves your problem or it doesn't. You learn how to help others. You learn how to learn because you know your limits. You know when you're motivating. You know how to look for the energy and you know how to balance yourself.
How do you see 42 contributing to 42 Barcelona contributing to the city's broader digital future?
Barcelona is like a very vibrant ecosystem and hub of innovation. Our main partners are like Fundación Telefónica, the Generalitat de Catalunya, and the City Hall of Barcelona. And they already have, of course, like the Generalitat have like their own universities, or like the Ajuntament of Barcelona have their own trainings. How 42 Barcelona fits in all this ecosystem is because we have this side of inclusivity. We don't have a schedule, like we are open 24/7 all days of the year. And why we do so is because if you are working at the same time, you are studying at the same time, you have family, you can come here in the weekends, you can come here at night. So like I would say that this system works because it allows the student to organize in the way they want. And this is important because technology is everything. Like digital is gonna run like everything, and we're like making a lot of decisions based on like how technology works, and of course and technology itself is like making a lot of decisions, but at the end of the day that is coded by someone and someone is like making those decisions. So I think it's important we talk about like how many like women, for example, we have in technology, but not just that, how many people from like lower incomes are reaching like important positions in tech companies. Because I think in a world where technology runs everything, if like just a bunch of like very precise group of people are like making decisions in technology, then like we know who will be like privileged.
What signals are you seeing from employers that the 42 model is effective?
We have 100% employability rate. Pretty much like everyone, like not everyone who's actually like actively looking for a job and they finish the fundamentals, like the first part of like our curriculum, they get a job. In a world where AI is like already coding, probably you want people who like know how the fundamentals work because you learn how to detect if what AI is coding is actually correct or not. And then apart from that, like you want someone who is like probably like more educated or have a different view or has some creativity or brings to the conversation certain aspects of, hey, me as a woman, for example, I wouldn't like that problem to be solved in that way or that like website to look in that way, because you have another profile that brings a lot of value that is very valuable. Because at the end, a part of talking about like rights, we all have the right of using technology as we want to use it. But from company point of view, also, it's a question of income. So if you can place your product to more people, then you have a wider market.
I visited you because we're going to do a collaboration with you around the Beyond Boundaries Global Festival next year. We're going to do a MicroLab, which you very kindly agreed to host for us, on AI for public good, where we bring together your students along with some of the folks from our guests at the conference. What appealed to you about having us come and join you? What's the interesting thing for you?
You told us, like, do you want to open the doors to like very talented people to talk to our students and discuss all like real problems from about technology? It fits with our values. It fits with our project and the events that we host here at 42. And I think it's very valuable for 42 students because, as I said before, the main motivation of 42 is also learn how the world works and learning how like technology moves and learning how things are like changing, working on that topics. I think it's like the most valuable thing that we can offer to our students.
What are some of the key issues, do you think, that your students at 42 are going to face and that we might want to talk about when we have that event?
The other day, I was listening to a podcast about neural rights, and they were talking about how we reach a point in neurotechnology where we have to start thinking about the rights that we have as a citizens. So this, I think, is the same. They were talking about the 5 main rights, and I think with AI, like that is way more developed because it's not the future. We have it here already. And with like ethical AI, I think that we should ensure that like we all have the same access to AI, that AI, like, of course, it's not biased. And I think it's already by law in Europe that like when AI is, for example, used for like selection process, you should guarantee that it's not biased. As you said before, it's like AI for good. We can do so much with AI. And at the end, as I said before, it will be the people making decisions, who will decide what are we doing with AI. So I think that the best that we can do is educate the people who will code AI in like ethical values. We don't teach any ethics. There's not a philosophy class, or we don't really talk about it. But there's so much diversity in the school that when you walk in for it too, at the end of the day, you are working hand by hand with people that like come from a different like background, and that teach you so much.
Great. All right. That's great. Thank you so much, Cristina. Thank you for your leadership at 42. I'm sure everybody's going to be interested to find out more, and I'll put some notes in the discussion, but we're really looking forward to coming to see you and work with the students in 2026. So thank you very much, Cristina.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, really looking forward to this partnership and this event that I think is going to be very interesting. I hope for people participating and also for our students. So thank you so much.
Will. Great. Thank you, Cristina.